I'm just going to run through the Forest Footprint Disclosure Project, but I'm going to start with the Global Canopy Programme. The Forest Footprint Disclosure Project is a project of the Global Canopy Programme for whom I work, and we were essentially set up to try and generate a shift in how we value forests, particularly rainforests or tropical forests. And our motivation originally was that we wanted to conserve biodiversity, but particularly in recent years, that's really changed to more of a think tank or advocacy organization, because there are perhaps more pressing needs, certainly in the eyes of business. So I'm just going to choose two of the reasons why we should save forests off the top of that list, which are to tackle climate change and because forests generate rainfall, as I've already heard. So in terms of climate change, this is a diagram produced by McKinsey. They did an analysis of the options, as it were, for tackling climate change, and the analysis basically concluded that there were many ways in which deforestation, afforestation, reforestation, and restoration of degraded forests could altogether be perhaps 40% of the solution to tackling climate change. It's really our best and perhaps our last chance to effectively get to grips with the climate change problem. And as you see there, it's currently about 20% of greenhouse gas emissions. Basically, the tropical forests of the world generate this conveyor belt of moisture which circulates the planet and provides rainfall not only in the regions of the tropical rainforests themselves, but also here in South America, as we heard earlier from Alejandro. In this area, the La Plata Basin, which I'm sure many of you are familiar with, there is massive amounts of industry and agribusiness, hydropower generation, which all really depends on that rainforest generating the rainfall. But also, much further afield, even in North America, at the top there, the rain that's generated by the Amazon actually has an impact on the amount of rain that's falling even in those very distant lands. Brazil, as I'm sure you're all very well aware, is one of the largest producers of beef and leather. The EU is one of the world's largest import markets for soybeans, palm oil from Malaysia and Indonesia, providing inputs to global food and cosmetic industries, and also into biofuels. And this is often at the expense of forests, unfortunately. This is what it traditionally looks like. This is what it often looks like when land is being converted from forest to grow those commodities. In a word, it's burnt. And that's, of course, the 20% of climate change is generated through burning forests. So this is our response, the Forest Footprint Disclosure Project, which really aims to highlight the impact which companies, even if they're far down the supply chain, even if they're retailers in the Western world, in the US, in Europe, many of them have forest risk commodities, which are beef and leather, soy, biofuels, as we just saw, timber. Many of these companies, although they're very far distant and removed by numerous intermediaries, they have a large impact and because of that impact, they have a responsibility to manage their impact, their position in the supply chain, and manage their impact on forests. So that's what we're really trying to do with the Forest Footprint Disclosure Project. We're also trying to educate stakeholders on the values of forests and how they can really do things better. And the overall objective is to reduce the unsustainable global forest footprint. So very briefly, how does it work? We send out a questionnaire to leading companies around the world. The questionnaire is released in summer. The companies have a couple of months to respond. We provide a help desk, helping them to complete the questionnaire. And we're asking them to publicly disclose to us how they're managing their impact on forests. So what policies and strategies they have in place to ensure that their impact on forests is minimized and managed responsibly to the best of their ability. We produce a public annual review in February of each year. There are copies down the front here for anybody who would like to see that. And we rate the company's responses. So in each industry sector, we will nominate one as a star performer, as the best performer in that sector. And I'll show you a few examples of those companies. The thing about the Forest Footprint Disclosure Project, as with the Carbon Disclosure Project, is that we are backed by the financial community. We are backed by 38 financial institutions with $4,000 billion in assets under management, or $4 trillion in assets under management. So these are not small niche investment funds. These are mainstream investment funds that are concerned about the impact of their investments and the companies they're invested on forests. In terms of companies, the reasons why the companies should respond is basically because it's in their own interests. The last example there is one of credit access and higher credit interest rates. In fact, there's a very interesting example of a soy supply chain policy which Rabobank produced, I think it was last year. And in that policy, they actually say, unless you can demonstrate that you are a sustainable operator, you will incur a higher interest rate for the loans, for the finance that we provide. And I think that's a key indicator of how the world is changing, how finance and companies are having to adapt to a new operating environment.